So I'm really excited to introduce our second speaker. His 3 fun facts. He's afraid of heights and roller coasters, but he's jumped off a plane because it was on the bucket list of one of his close friends. That's so sweet. What a good friend you are. He loves parties, and he has hosted over 500 of them. And he's addicted to any form of competition, gaming, business, sports, and the list goes on and on. So please give a warm round of applause to this party animal, Keith.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, before we start, let me give you some background as to actually why we're here today. So I mentor and coach and advise business leaders, founders, and executives. And in a conversation that I had recently, someone came to me and he said, I really feel like shit. I feel like such a failure because the past few years of his life, he's dedicated it all to this startup. And at the end of it, the products didn't get to see the light of day. And he put everything into it. And so it got to a point where he felt truly like shit. And he really didn't know where he stood in life anymore. And that's when I said to him, you know what, I actually really value your failures. I mean, especially from a startup mentality, I want co-founders and founders who have been through failures, and people really appreciate that. Because when you fail, you'll know you'll never do that again. And especially when you fail to his magnitude, you're gonna do everything you can to make sure that never happens again. Right? But that led to a deeper conversation. That's how Marsha and I really started connecting. And it was really, you know what, people talk so much about their awesome profile, right? You see someone's LinkedIn, you see someone's Instagram, it's always picture perfect. And especially in the startup world, we don't really get to see the failures. At least it's not celebrated. And so today I thought, you know what, why don't I show you a bit of my picturesque version of me, and then I'll share the fucked up version of me. I'll tell you a couple of my biggest fuck-ups and what I learned from them. Does that sound fair? Yeah. All right, so this is my fucked up story. And so this is, let's start with my my amazing LinkedIn profile, all right? So I have about 20 years of business experience, let's call it, and it spans a wide range of experiences. So I've done marketing, strategy, sales, product management, project management, everything in between. And I've had the fortune of doing this for really large tech firms, for telcos, for banks, for medical firms, and it's been over about 20 years, and it's been a lot of fun. And most recently, I did that for Microsoft, where I worked for them for about 6 years in 3 different roles, and I had the pleasure of building, I think, the fastest growing business in the history of the company, and also the one with the largest upside. So from a career perspective, that's pretty awesome. That's having a lot of fun. And then from an education perspective, I have a background in civil engineering from the University of Waterloo. I also did an English degree there, and I have an MBA from the Schulich School of Business in Marketing and Strategy. Yeah, English engineering, right? My parents are really proud. And then let's talk about startups. So I'm a serial entrepreneur. Every time I went to school, I had a full-time job, but I also had my own business. And throughout that time, I think Marsha calls me a serial entrepreneur. I've been fortunate to exit from 3 startups and have had some good success there. So that's overall my business profile. Pretty cool, right? I'd hire me. This is the version that people see, and that anytime we do a talk or it's on a website, this is what you'll find. So that's LinkedIn. This is my Instagram. I'm very fortunate to have a beautiful wife, and this is my 7-month-old. The only downside is it still keeps me up at night. But this is what you'll find on my Instagram. So it's kind of my picture-perfect life, right? So let's show you my fucked up life. So I have about 20-something years of working experience, and it's pretty awesome. I've worked for, you name it, a large company I've worked for, and it's pretty cool. What people never get to hear is that I actually switch jobs every 2 years, 2.5 years max. And the reason is because I had career ADD, right? The first year I go work for a company, I'll be the best employee you've ever had, and I'll kill that, and I'll win awards galore. That second year, I'm gonna master it, I'm gonna scale it, I'm gonna start working myself out of a job, right? Show people what I do, teach you what I do, and by that 3rd year, mentally checked out. And that's really how the first 10 or 15 years of my career was. Right? Just always changing, look for something better. And you know what? Thankfully, by the end of it, Microsoft is a company that's very receptive to change. And so with them, I was there for 6 years, 3 different roles, right? That was pretty cool. But that career is not as picture perfect as it seems. And then from education, I mean, come on, I started in engineering and finished with an English degree in undergrad, right? I'm really good at science, I'm really good at math, but engineering bores me to tears, right? And the reality was I failed through school. I was fortunate to actually graduate from the University of Waterloo. And I had eventually finished engineering, went into English, and my parents really were not happy. But out of that, because I couldn't really, Chinese parents, you want to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer, right? And I had an English degree, good luck. But it wasn't until a few years later when I did my MBA, and that was when I realized my passion in life was in business, right? And that's when I did marketing and strategy and kind of rounded out myself. But again, the education seems like an interesting, eclectic mix, but it wasn't by choice, at least not initially. So if you do the math, I have 20-something years of working experience, 11 years in university. I guess I'm a little older than I look, maybe a little younger than I sound. And then startups. I mean, everyone talks about startups, and we always celebrate unicorns. We celebrate the exits. Anytime anyone asks, oh yeah, how many exits do you have? You tell them the number. Oh wow, this is pretty awesome. The reality is, for every single success that I've had 3 or 4 failures. And some of them were pretty epic. But we never talk about that, right? And so today, when I figured, one more thing, the marriage. Gosh, is that I'm kidding. The one thing I have going on in my life is I have a great family at home. She is a stunt actress, though, so I can't say anything mean about her or she'll kick my ass. But, all right, so let me share with you my 2 biggest fuck-ups. And both of them are startup related, okay? The first one was quite a few years ago, and I started this business with one of my best friends and one of his acquaintances. And this business was pretty cool, had really high potential, got funded. Everything was going great until about a couple years later when I realized that us as founders had fundamental differences in values in terms of what we want and how we want to get there. And it was a really difficult thing to do at that point when I realized that I can no longer do this business because it just didn't sit right with me. And so I had to back out of the business that I was the CEO of. And what was difficult was, obviously, it's a lot of sweat and tears and money into a business, but the most challenging part was I was leaving a relationship, which is the most important thing to me. And that was one of the most biggest fuck-ups of my life. And I'll tell you, it was really difficult. And we hadn't talked in what feels like a decade. But this summer, we finally, sat down and got to mend our relationship. And thankfully, I think we can move on from there. But that was a huge, huge fuck-up on my part because, I love that guy. And then my second major fuck-up was also from a startup perspective. And this one was a few years later from that one. And this one was pretty cool. We had developed this really cool technology. And perhaps my approach at that point was, let's not find founders that were simply because they were my best friends. Let's find founders who were rock stars, who have done this a bazillion times, are really good. We're going to form this SWAT team of startups. And we did, and it was really cool. And within that first year, we had an offer on the table for mid-8 figures to purchase the company. We didn't even go to market yet. That's pretty good. And of course, our advisors and our team looked at each other and said, there's no way we would take that kind of a number. This is a multi-billion-dollar business. Let's pass on that one. And then so we decided, why don't we raise funds and build the company instead? And we got some really good offers until it hit to 9 figures. And eventually we got to a number that we liked, right? And again, this is about a bit over a year into the business. And once again, I went to that moment. And what I realized again was we had fundamental differences within our founders. When you start a business, you can start it because you want to make a shit ton of money. You can start it because you want to change the world, you want to make a difference, you want to make an impact, you want to be famous. There are a million different reasons why you want to start a startup. And there's a million different ways of how you want to get there. And ultimately, between the 4 of us, we had conflicting views, but also the values were very different. And so it's a great financial windfall, but you might lose a piece of yourself doing it. And so 2 of us at that point decided we cannot proceed with this. And it was, again, a very big, sitting with these numbers right in front of us in terms of what we're going to have to give up. But we made that decision. And ultimately, that was my second major fuck-up. Now, if you compare my two fuck-ups, I will still say the first one was significantly worse. Right? The second one might be financially impactful, but that first one really is relationship and it's people you love. And so the learning from this was that when you build a startup, when you really go in there and choose your founders, you never want to do it out of convenience or desperation, which a lot of times seems to happen. Oh, this guy's my best friend, this guy's my whomever it is, we're going to do this together, you're a body. And then the other side of it is, I have no idea about technology, I need a techie, this guy knows WordPress, he's my CTO, right? That kind of happens, but through time, you're going to get to a point where perhaps it's not going to work out. So those are my two biggest fuck-ups. So the question is, what have I done about it? So I'm a co-founder of a company called CTOboost. We're Canada's first fractional CTO service. But essentially what we do is we go and fix other people's fuck-ups. So when you've raised your 5, 10, what is it that you raised, and you promised your investors that we're going to deliver the best thing since sliced bread, and then you realize you can't, you give us a call. And so we go in there and we help you build that company. And through the past 8 years, we've built some of Canada's biggest successes in startups, which are leading positions in their various verticals. But the one thing that this time around, our founders all have one thing in common. Our values are the same, which is we want to help Canadian startups, we want to help Canadian businesses, and we want to grow. And we want to share our knowledge to help others, right? And that part of it is very rewarding. And so to the point where we also run a community called Startup Grind. Some of you may be aware of it. There was an event yesterday. We brought one of the co-founders of Instacart into town, and we had a fireside chat with him. But ultimately, and this is a 1 million-member community worldwide, but ultimately what we want to do is make sure that we can work with each other and support each other and teach each other and prevent each other's fuck-ups. So that's me. Thank you very much.
Keith, thank you so much for sharing that story. I think it was really powerful when you showed the two different sides of yourself. I'm so guilty of that too. Like if you look at my Instagram or LinkedIn, it looks so perfect, and with Fuckup Nights, like getting all these features and all these great photos and everything. But there's so much struggle behind it, and it's definitely something that I'm thinking about as well. Like how do I start sharing some of my own failures and like leading this community in that way as well. So now we'll hand it over to you guys to ask Keith some great questions. So who wants to kick it off?
Hi, Keith. That was really great. Thank you. So just hearing you talk really made me reflect on some of the stuff that I've been through. And I realized that I'm actually pretty grateful and thankful for my personal fuck-ups because it really makes you grow and go through a lot of things and gives you a lot of perspective. So my question to you is, what was your favorite fuck-up when you look back on things?
Probably that last example that I just shared, because although I was the CEO and had very big equity, so I gave up a lot of money, but the feeling of I didn't sell myself for money is probably something that I'm very proud of, right? So I think that's my favorite fuck up, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
So you said you hosted 500 different parties?
Yes.
What was your biggest fuck up at a party?
Can I say that? This is not recorded, right? That's funny. Probably the first thing that comes to mind is I love throwing parties, and really it's just connecting communities. That's what I do. And I hosted this boat party, which oversold. And halfway through, I guess you're on the lake, I think there's like 1,000 people on your boat, and some people want to go home, people are too drunk, and it just becomes a shit show. But that's probably the worst event that I've ever held, was on a boat. Sure.
Hi. Someone's hopefully not going to fuck up his question. My question is, I've also had to switch programs in my career just to find what I want to do. What was it like switching programs for you at Waterloo and going and getting yourself an MBA?
Switching from engineering to English was actually, one, it was frustrating because Waterloo is known for engineering, and then going to English where your parents really were not happy. It was not easy, but the university was actually very supportive. And they actually found a way to say, connect your artistic side with your analytical side, and it actually makes a better you, right? And so that was really good, and I came out of it, and actually it turns out that people who have technical skills who can communicate is actually quite useful. So I actually started my career that way. But it was actually the MBA that made the biggest change in my life. Not so much to have the 3 letters, but the learning I got from it, and Schulich as a school has been so great in supporting us. That's what it was. So I guess overall, it's been a pretty good experience switching. And career-wise, it's actually just how you sell yourself. If you always just put up the LinkedIn version of yourself, right, and sell it that way, I've never really had a problem in terms of changing careers or advancing.
My question is on... Oh,
Sorry?
Sorry. My question is on values, because you had problems with like your
Oh, hey.
like, hi. You had an issue with your co-founder concerning like you guys had different values. So will it make it easier if you guys have like a company's like mission statement and values and stuff like that, so you can always fall back to if you guys disagree on certain things?
Yeah, mission statements or visions and goals are all things that, it's something now that when I advise people, it's something you want to work on. But I give you an example. So a lot of people might say, I want to get into this business to build the next revolutionary product that's going to change the industry, right? I'm going to disrupt it. However, and the vision might say we're going to be this, sustainable, blah, 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 and we're going to be an awesome firm. But ultimately, it could very well be that ultimately, both of you want to get wealthy, both of you want to make an impact. One of you might say, I want to do it ethically, and the other person might say, I don't care who I have to kill to do it, right? And some of these things don't necessarily start from, I'm certainly not saying that this is how my co-founders were. I'm just painting an example that's easy to understand, right? Yeah. Sorry. Yes?
Hey, Keith.
Hey.
My question is similar to the gentleman over there. And it was basically, finding a co-founder, finding anyone to come work for you is not something to be taken lightly. I've heard the stories of co-founders who didn't get along. My question is there any advice when you're choosing a co-founder or when you're building a team in general? Is there something that you think you could have asked your co-founder that would have prevented
You know what?
some of the conflicts?
And I would think that co-founders is not dating, it's a marriage, right? And I think a lot of times, especially when you do a lot of the startup, I don't call it startup schools, but you go through a lot of these startup camps, and they kind of pair you with other people. It's like, oh, you know how to do this, you know how to do that. You kind of need each other, you're a team. I don't think it kind of works that way, right? You really need to take the time to know the person and understand what they can bring to the table, if you can trust them, and if you really actually want the same thing. So what I'd say is there's no secret sauce, but you have to make sure that these are people you can trust, people that actually bring something to the table, and then ultimately that you share a core value, right? And that can only be discovered by doing something with them outside of work. Because when you're sitting at the table, everyone's gonna be, their LinkedIn self. But if I go with you at a bar and we get shit-faced, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get to know you pretty well.
Okay, so we'll take one last question.
Hey Keith, on a lighter note, right here.
Okay.
On a lighter note to end it with, how'd you fuck up your finger?
This is a funny story. So I have really bad arthritis, and this finger started looking like a monster. So they started operating on me, and then they found out I don't have arthritis in this finger, I have a tumor. And it got so bad, they actually brought 11 surgeons into the room, and they filmed 2 videos because they've never seen this shit before. How does it make me feel, right? I'm like, what? And they're trying to make jokes with me to keep me, But ultimately, I think I'm in good hands. Hopefully the next time I see you, this would be all taken care of. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith.